u/alarmingrich-1048 Askreddit. What to do if a screaming child is ruining a restaurant meal?
Welcome to
AutoGenLabs.
Daily Reddit content
by robots.
For the internet.
I think we all know what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to eat the child.
I used to work in fine dining. A couple came in for lunch for one day. Full house that usually was tables were in high demand. They had a baby with them. Couldn't have been more than 1 year old. The baby was pretty well behaved, a bit noisy every now and then as babies are. At one point the baby started to cry. I saw this baby's father grab the baby's face with enough force that it was jarring to watch. Grab the whole face to try and shut it up. Whatever you do, please don't do that.
Scream even louder.
I was on a date once and the table next to us had about 4 kids that were making so much noise that the entire restaurant was rolling their eyes. The mums were taking shots and playing on their phones. The kids were running amok and they were literally not giving a flying F about them. The waiters came over several times to apologise. There was nothing we could do. Once the ladies left and peace was restored, everyone finally had a nice meal. They never once apologised or tried to control their children. They had absolutely no self-awareness, meaning this happens often.
I usually tell the server I'm going to need a different table further from the screaming.
Silently seethe and complain to my girlfriend in the ride home.
RKO out of nowhere.
You're all missing the most obvious answer to a simple question. You simply take the child and raise it as you earn to fight other kids in an underground child fight club to make yourself rich. That's what my parents did, and look at me. I've never screamed in a restaurant since, and I know how to throw a right hook.
The people saying deal with it. It's tough raising a kid. They can't control it and need to understand that not everybody is a beep about it. However, if your kid screams and you do nothing, YTA as an adult. Deal with the fact that that night may not be your night and just go home for the baby's sake. Ruining everybody else's time at a public place is not cool. I say this because I was on a date once at a beautiful Italian restaurant and heard a baby scream his beep off for a good 25, maybe 30 minutes, to the point everybody was like, why isn't the parents doing anything? The baby would start again for several minutes, and stop again several times throughout our date, while mom and dad continued to eat. Not cool at all. Wrap that beep up and take your pasta to go.
If the baby is crying, it's distressful.
Use the footage to sell condoms.
Had an incident with a kid screaming. I dealt with it as it was a family restaurant. However, older brother thought it great fun to run through the restaurants and crash into tables. Are you gonna beat control the spawn of Satan? He has just knocked over my second drink. Do something or I know what will be my dessert. Shrug from uncaring parent. Shrug from server. I saw the little beep lining up for round 3, so I ran at him, screaming like a deranged banshee. I chased him round the restaurant for 30 seconds, and I think I scared the living beep out of him because he went back to his table and stayed there.
Both my children are on the autism spectrum, 7 and 3. We don't go out to eat much, but it's nice to go out from time to time and eat out. When they were both babies, and still to this day, if they were slash or screaming, my wife and I have a plan of action. We discuss it before even going to the restaurant. First thing we try is redirecting attention. Maybe holding and soothing. Get up and walk around. If that doesn't work, then one of us takes the kid outside. Sometimes change of scenery works. If not, we go to the van and I'll put some music on, which sometimes helps calm them down. iPad is a last resort. Worst case scenario, I or my wife stays in the van while the other finishes and pays and the other gets their meal in a box. This doesn't always happen, and sometimes we do get to enjoy a nice meal out. But I get no one wants to hear a child screaming when they too are trying to enjoy themselves.
Go over and ask gently if the kid is injured. Mention a first aid certification. Usually the embarrassment makes the parents take action.
Leave. If a server asks why you're leaving, they might ask if you've already placed your order but the drink/food haven't come out yet. Tell them that the screaming child is ruining your time. Or perhaps send an email to the restaurant if the server doesn't ask. I of course don't expect waitstaff to control a patron's child. However, I support the decision of restaurants to implement no children allowed policies. If restaurants feel that they're losing out on business, they might make the change. Therefore, any parents come for me. Yes, I understand it's not easy to stop children from throwing tantrums. Tantrums are normal for certain ages, etc. However, people should be able to go to a restaurant without having to put up with children screaming, children running around and children making a mess. I have witnessed all of these things while out dining. Not to mention, staff and owners shouldn't have to put up with it if they don't want to either. From what I've seen, places that implement this policy get the usual anger from parents claiming that it violates their rights and that they'll never support a business like that. However, I've witnessed an equal amount of support and commiseration from people. Parents also may want to have a night out at a nice establishment that doesn't allow children. P.S. I am talking about nice restaurants here. If it's a casual, family restaurant with kids' menus, of course, I expect it to be loud and full of kids.
Removed.
You need to be that person. There are plenty of family-friendly restaurants you can take kids. Even most restaurants can be attended with kids at reasonable times. I'm fine with that. Bring a 4-year-old to an upscale restaurant where you pay for the ambience they better behave. 2 incidents come out. I wanted to take my wife someplace nice at the last minute, so I took her to the Tundra-Dweller in Atlanta. There was a couple there with 2 young girls. Young, like 3-4 years old. They were quiet, behaved, and said nearly nothing. That's how kids should behave in a nice restaurant. A few weeks ago we were at another place that I won't name. This was not in the kid window for eating. 5 minutes after this couple sat down, their son, about 5, began howling. This is beyond disturbing. He threw himself on the floor and continued screaming. I finally got up and asked them, gently, to take their son outside or at least quiet him down. Mom lost her mind, telling me how her evening was ruined and if I didn't like it then my wife and I should leave. I pointed out that the entire restaurant was having their night ruined by their kid who was still thrashing around, screaming at the top of his lungs. They left quickly. 5 minutes later the manager sent a bottle of wine to my table. You having kids does not qualify you to suddenly impose on me. Sometimes you have to speak up.
Once been on a train and a few seats away was a family with 2 young kids. They ran away the whole time and parents didn't court them before passing my seat. While running / falling / crawling they screamed and cried. You know what this parents did to keep them from running away? Put on their favourite kids show on full volume. I don't know what was more annoying, the kids passing my seat screaming or listening to their show. So yeah, please take the kids outside instead of trying to keep them calm with different loud noises. I don't want to eat while listening to someone in a kid's voice explaining different colours and shapes.
I just turned around and asked the parents, "Excuse me, do you mind if I try to calm your kiddos since neither of you seem interested in doing so?" In a moderately loud voice since they were a few tables away. That got their attention enough to be thoroughly embarrassed and apologise. The crying didn't entirely stop, but it reduced significantly.
If it is another person's child, just ignore them. If it is my child, take him outside.
End it. The meal I mean. Honest. Tell restaurant you can't take the speed and walk.
My grandmother would lean over and say to the parents, "Are you going to do something about that?" I saw her do it several times. The noisy child usually was calmed down quickly. Who's going to push back on a grandmother?
Most reasonable people would at least give the parent a chance to try calm down the child or remove them from the room. It's the parents who try to ignore the kids themselves and don't care how long they are disturbing others that are the problem. If you're not going to at least try pacify the child and calm them down, then don't bring them to the restaurant. Just because you have kids doesn't give you a license to disturb the peace. Recognise there is an issue, act to fix it or remove the problem from the environment. Another solution is there should be more child-free venues. I know everything is marketed towards families, more consumers, but they could at least give those who do not like kids a break when out in public.
Put the child outside next to the entrance.
Your child leave the restaurant. Someone else's child notify the management.
Screenshot that baby up.
It depends. If it's a family-friendly restaurant and the children are doing what children do, I ignore it. If it is somewhere that kids shouldn't be, I'll make eye contact with them and give them the WTF. Look, most of the time I try to be supportive and friendly. Kids can't learn how to get around in the world if they never get out in it. I get overwhelmed in restaurants too. Sometimes I want to cry and storm out to the car.
You take the Anakin Skywalker approach.
Summon my inner WWE wrestler and clothesline the little demon.
Send it back to the kitchen with instructions to cook it properly this time.
Covertly hiss at the child. Up. You should make sure they are humanely put to sleep in a freezer before boiling them.
You moved.
Grab them by ankles and beep them out the nearest window.
I normally try to ignore it, but if it's really, really bad, maybe say something to the parents or even ask the server to say something on your behalf / other diners' behalf.
Ask the bartender why there are children in the bar. Most restaurants I eat at have a bar. I don't always drink. I just don't like waiting 30 minutes for a table and children running around.
How about get a beep babysitter?
If my child's going off like that, I'm trying all I can and I'm embarrassed and frustrated. That's a lot of us. But how do you take my child outside after a short time? It's inconsiderate to let it continue around others.
Thanks for watching. This has been an AutoGenLabs production. That means that this video was created by a robot out of content on Reddit. We show all account names and list them in the description to credit the Redditor community that makes our work possible. If you like this video, please consider subscribing to our channel. We post new videos every day. If you have any suggestions for videos you would like to see, please leave a comment. Our Human Department for Public Relations reads all of them, or won't be let out of their cages again. Goodbye.